Dugtrio is one of the fastest and frailest Pokémon from Gen 1, being given the amazing ability Arena Trap in the 3rd generation to prevent opponents from switching out, making him one of the scariest Pokémon to face off against in competitive, even more so with his decent attack stat and strong stab earthquakes. But could he beat every single Pokémon in Fire Red if they had their best competitive moveset? Let's find out! To start off, this is the Dugtrio I'll be using. He currently only knows Earthquake, Dry Attack, Growl, and Sand Attack. I know it's a bit of a weird moveset, but this is only based around the ones he learns via level up. I wanted to start by using only those just to see how far Dugtrio could get with that limitation. Now, as for how I'm going to be facing off against each Pokémon, I modified Pokémon Fire Red to turn it into a gauntlet, where each room I go into represents a tier of competitive battling, going from the strongest Universe, where there's both Mewtwo and Mew, all the way to the lowest tier that exists right now, which is SU or Sub-Zero used, with Pokémon like Farfetch, Onix, and Parasect. I also added some lower tiers that I personally made to differentiate Pokémon that are even weaker. And what better way to represent that than the first room, which is composed of the weakest of the weakest: Caterpie, Metapod, Weedle, Kakuna, Magikarp, and Ditto. Dugtrio obviously had no problem against them, with the only one that could have been an issue being Ditto, but since he couldn't take 2 Earthquakes from Dugtrio, he went down easily like the others. Now, this is the part where I would usually tell you how Dugtrio swept through the early rooms with his strong Earthquakes, making his way to the midpoint without issues. However, the reality was different, as in literally the next room he was already struggling against the first form Pokémon he was facing off against. Dugtrio lost to Bulbasaur due to getting unlucky with Sleep, but more worrying was how he got one-shot by a Double Edge coming from a Choice Banded Eevee. I tried a few times hoping it was going to be a range, but it wasn't. This is the reality of Dugtrio, as while he has a great ability for team battles, a decent attack, and great speed, his defenses are atrocious, making him a glass cannon that's more glass than cannon. I could try and use Sand Attack, hoping to get 2 misses from Eevee and then defeat him, but that is way too much luck, and I am not dealing with that. So here's what I'm going to do. Each time Dugtrio faces a roadblock, I'm going to be giving him an extra tool that would give him a way of getting out. Because if he's using Double Edge, I thought of trying Substitute to make him lose some HP, and then attack him when he got weaker. That strategy still didn't work, so I equipped Dugtrio with a Citrus Berry to be able to set up another Substitute. And that one still didn't work. So I then gave him the leftovers, and that finally allowed me to get past that evil Eevee. I got a crit Earthquake against him, so I don't know if I would have needed to use Protect to truly get past that fight by getting more leftovers recovery, but I've already spent enough time talking about Eevee, and I still got a whole room to defeat, so let's move on. The leftovers and Substitute do make a lot of the fights easier on the second room, like against an Oddish with Hidden Power Grass, a Choice Banded Double Edge PG, and a Toxic Surf Shelter. But Dugtrio still struggles a lot against the rest of the Pokémon that were left, like a Goldeen with Hydro Pump that I only managed to get past by getting him to miss, a Krabby that got a crit Double Edge, a Paras with Spore and Hidden Power Flying that didn't know how to react when I used Substitute and just kept spamming the sleeping move. I honestly have no clue what happened there, but it might be worth remembering for the future. And a Seal for which I just forgot to heal beforehand. If Dugtrio is struggling this much against the second room, then I don't want to imagine how badly he's going to do against the ones with fully evolved Pokémon. One quick note, those of you who are watching the video might have noticed that some Pokémon use Hidden Power, but the move is named weirdly. That's because I can't really modify every IV on the trainers, so Hidden Power isn't replicable. Because of that, I had to modify the game and make the moves myself. I know it's not that relevant for the video, but I thought I should clear that out in case anyone was wondering. Moving on to the third room, Dugtrio keeps struggling, this time fighting 2 Pokémon that he couldn't currently beat. Those were Psyduck and Sandshrew. Psyduck was simply hitting too hard with his water moves, having both Surf and Hydro Pump in his moveset and being able to OHKO Dugtrio with both, while being able to take an Earthquake as well. As for Sandshrew, he had a Choice Band to boost the damage of his Earthquakes, and that somehow was enough to get a one-shot against Dugtrio. On one attempt against him, I got a crit, but that only left him on red HP. I really didn't want to use this early, but there's one item that I could try, which is the Choice Band. It gives a 50% boost to attack on the condition that you can only use one move for the rest of the fight. It's going to prevent me from using substitutes, but the increase in power should be worth it for some of the fights. When I equipped it to Dugtrio, I got a crit against Psyduck for a one-shot, so I don't know if it was actually useful. But against Sandshrew, I can tell you that it wasn't, as a choice-banded Earthquake left him on around a quarter of his HP. I could try and get lucky with crits, but because of the time it could take to get it to work, I'm going to save it for the end. There were other Pokemon Dugtrio struggle against though. For starters, there was the first Pokemon in the room, Butterfree. I forgot about this, but he had a Quick Claw equipped, so he was sometimes outspeeding Dugtrio and landing his status moves against me. I remember what happened with Perez, so by spamming substitutes, I was able to trick the AI into letting me win. That wasn't the only instance of me using that strategy though, as I had to use it against a Hypnosis Poliwag that hit like a truck with Surf, and a Venonat that had almost perfect accuracy Sleep Powders. One thing before moving on, but I'll be mainly using the leftovers for the early parts of the game, not the Choice Band. I don't want to rely on the item too much, and I know I'll need the leftovers for my substitute strategy. I'll still mention if I need to use the Choice Band though. Going into the 4th room or the Sub-Zero used one, things continue getting rough for Dugtrio. I know I just said that I wasn't going to use the Choice Band that much, but immediately on the first battle, which was against Staryu, I'm forced to use the item. It was pretty smooth sailing for a while after that fight though, defeating Pokemon like Grimer, Growlithe, and Onix. I had a bit of a difficult time when fighting Execute, but since he was only using Solar Beam and I could hide behind a substitute when he was going to fire, it was more annoying than hard. With more grass types coming up and Tri Attack falling behind, I made the decision of giving Dugtrio another TM, which was Sludge Bomb. It's 90 base power, meaning that it's stronger than Tri Attack, so it should help me against both the grass types and Pokemon that either Ground doesn't hit or hits for non-super effective damage. It proves helpful against Parasect, but not so much against Pidgeotto. The fight goes pretty much the same as the one against Eevee, except this time the opponent is more bulky and hits for more damage. I tried Sludge Bomb and it didn't work. I tried teaching Dugtrio Rock Slide, which is super effective, and it didn't work. I tried the substitute leftover stall strategy and it only left him on a sliver. I tried the Choice Band and it only left him on the red. Like, nothing worked against him. I could keep trying until I get a flinch or a crit, but like Sandshrew, I'm going to wait until the end. The 5th room follows the same pattern as the last one. Some Pokemon need a couple of tries, some need for the Choice Band, and one of them need for a Hydro Pump miss. There's 2 fights that I want to highlight though. The first one is Cubone. It was pretty much the same situation as Sandshrew, where he was straight up one-shotting Dugtrio with T-Club boosted Earthquakes, while eating the ones coming from Dugtrio for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, even when I was using the Choice Band. I might be able to do it with a crit, but I'll save that for later. The second Pokemon I want to talk about is Koffing. He was immune to Earthquake, took no damage from Rock Slide, did massive damage with Hidden Power Water, and could use Will-O-Wisp to cripple Dugtrio. It would usually be another fight that I would skip, since the damage that he does is insanely high when compared to what I do, but when I started using substitutes, he just stopped attacking, and instead spam both Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split. That allowed me to win, but since I know a lot of Pokemon are going to get angry if I keep abusing the AI's poor move choice when using substitutes, I'm going to reserve that strategy only for when I reach the end, as it'll make more clear the fights that Dugtrio wouldn't normally win. Because while he could have won against Perez and Butterfree with Rock Slide, Koffing was just impossible without substitutes. In the poorly used room, the pattern keeps repeating itself. There were some Pokemon that required a few restarts, some Pokemon that needed the Choice Band, and a Pokemon that was impossible right now, but might be if I get a crit while having the Choice Band equipped. The only Pokemon that's worth highlighting in this room, besides Sidra that I couldn't defeat because of his bulk and strong serves, was Tangela. He should be a 2-shot with a Choice Banded Sludge Bomb, but he likes to lead with Sleep Powder, followed by either Giga Drain to do massive damage and recover most of his HP, or Morning Sun to get back to full HP. I tried a couple of times, hoping to get an early wake up, and I eventually win thanks to instead getting a Sleep Powder miss. I'm so used to the move being used by Butterfree with Compound Ice that I forgot that I could do that. Things finally take a turn in the 7th room. Unfortunately, it's for the worse. Not only is it basically mandatory to use the Choice Band thanks to the rooms now being mostly composed of fully evolved Pokemon, but out of the 11 Pokemon that were inside the room, 4 were basically impossible to defeat right now. There was Dugong, who has incredible defenses and deletes Dugtrio with Ice Beam, Hitmonchan, who easily shocks off an Earthquake and either defeated me with Sky Uppercut or his own Earthquake, and Raticate, who hit for massive damage with Double Edge. There was also Pidgeot, and he would normally be among those previously mentioned opponents, but due to getting a lucky flinch with Rock Slide on my first attempt, I was able to get past him rather easily. I could also try and do the same for Dugong since Rock Slide is also super effective against him, but Pidgeot took only one attempt, and I'm not interested in trying to get a 10% chance that would probably take a dozen restarts. Now, it actually started pretty good against the rarely used room, as a lot of Pokemon in there were for some reason weak to Earthquake, with Dugtrio easily one-shotting Pokemon like Kabutops, Magmar, and Ninetales. However, that couldn't go forever, and that ending came with a streak of unbeatable Pokemon. First of them was Persian, who did a lot of damage with Fake Out, followed by Double Edge. He wasn't outspeeding, so there might be a chance of winning with a crit. I'll have to test that later. Then there was Poliwrath, and while he didn't have a water-type move, he was able to take an Earthquake from Dugtrio pretty comfortably and then start setting up Bulk Ups, being able to get a one-shot against me if he got 1 or 2 of them thanks to his Brick Break. Because he boosts his defenses with Bulk Up, it's another that might be possible with a crit. Lastly, there was Primeape, who easily got an OHKO against me with Cross Chop. That move thankfully had a chance to miss, and after giving it a couple of tries where I was trying to figure out if it was a range, he eventually missed the move and got defeated by 2 Earthquakes. I then went into the 9th room, but things went pretty weirdly. There were a bunch of Pokemon weak to Earthquake and that got defeated quickly, like Electabuzz, Nidoking, and Omastar, alongside some other Pokemon that were weak to Rock Slide, like Pinsir and Scyther. But the strange part of the fight was that I got really lucky against some of the bad matchups without even trying, like against Arcanine, who easily defeated me with Fire Blast but on the next attempt got 2-shot by Earthquake thanks to going for Sunny Day, Golduck, who missed Hydro Pump on the first attempt, or Sandslash, who I got a crit against on my second attempt against him. Now, it wasn't like it was all good news, as not only was I unable to get past 3 Pokemon, but I'm pretty sure that 2 of them are straight up impossible to get past. The one that looks the easiest to defeat is Golem. He one-shots Dugtrio with either Earthquake or Double Edge, but my attack gets him to the red, so it's only a matter of getting a crit. As for the other 2, they are Blastoise and Lapras. On my first attempt against Blastoise, I got a crit and that brought him to the red, while his Surf one-shot me. I'm already using the Choice Band, and from trying a couple of times, I can tell that it wasn't a range. For Lapras, while I didn't get the crits, he did miss a Hydro Pump, but even with that, 2 Earthquakes weren't enough to bring him down. This one looks like it would be more doable, but it would need for 2 missed Hydro Pumps, which might not happen since his Ice Beams also one-shot me, or for flinches with Rock Slide, which I'm not going to even try. Because of that, both Blastoise and Lapras are impossible for Dugtrio to defeat. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe, as I'm going to be doing this for a lot more Pokemon and that really helps me grow. In the penultimate room before fighting the Uber Pokemon, things continue getting ugly, as more and more Pokemon can win against Dugtrio. Before that, there's 2 fights that I want to highlight. The first one is the one against Articuno, who I won thanks to a flinch from Rock Slide. No idea if it was a range or not to get a one-shot. The second is the one against Venusaur. My Earthquakes did about half to him, but he always led with Sleep Powder, followed by Leech Seed, and then healing with Synthesis. He didn't have any grass moves to attack, so I was able to wake up eventually. But with all of that recovery, including a leftovers, my best option to win was either getting a missed Sleep Powder or a crit. And on my second attempt, I managed to get a crit for the win. Now, as for the losses, there's Dugtrio, Dragonite, and Rhydon, who are weak to one of my moves but managed to survive a hit and then countered by one-shotting me. There's Marowak and Vaporeon, who just hit really hard with their own attacks. There's Weezing, who while he might not do much damage with his flamethrower, is immune to Earthquake, doesn't take much damage from Rock Slide, has a leftovers, and can cripple Dugtrio with Will-O-Wisp. And then there's Slowbro, who is pretty similar to the case of Blastoise, where he's really bulky and can easily one-shot me with Surf. Lastly for the room, there's Tauros, who is a bit of a strange one. By stats, he should be slower than Dugtrio, but because of natures, something I cannot control nor modify, he's outspeeding and one-shotting me. I would usually count it as an impossible fight, but I'm going to try this fight later by giving some extra speedy Vs to Dugtrio, since it wouldn't sit right with me to just leave it as it is. The overused room was next, and it went slightly better than the last one. Dugtrio was able to get some easy KOs against Charizard, Jolteon, and Magneton, while also getting some lucky wins against Moltres with a flinch, Starmie with a missed Hydro Pump, and Zapdos with another flinch. There was also the mirror match against Dugtrio, but I outsped him and got an easy one-shot with Earthquake. As for the Pokemon he struggled to defeat, Cloyster and Gyarados were weak to Rock Slide, but didn't take that much from it and easily defeated me. Gengar is immune to ground and hits super hard with Ice Punch, and Snorlax can easily take an attack from Dugtrio, set up a curse, and then easily knock me out with Body Slam. There's one Pokemon that was more difficult though, and that was Aerodactyl. He outsped and one-shot me with either Double Edge or Hidden Power Flying. This one is different from Tauros and does in fact outspeed. I would say that it's impossible, but I'll try getting the priority with the Quick Claw before deciding. Those were the final fights before getting into the Uber's room, with both of the broken legendaries in the game. And while I could try fighting against them right now, I want to give one last try to all of the Pokemon that I wasn't able to defeat before. So let's rapid fire through them. Try to guess how many restarts it took me to defeat all of the Pokemon I had left. The easier ones were Pidgeotto, who got defeated by a flinch on the first try, Persian, who was easy if he didn't go for Fake Out at the start, Dugong, who got flinch on the third attempt against him, Poliwrath, who got crit on the third restart, Gengar, who took massive damage from Hidden Power Ghost but still needed a crit to be defeated, Snorlax, who got two-shot by a crit Earthquake on the second attempt, and Dugtrio, who on the second attempt against him got flinched. I should also mention Tauros, who after I gave Dugtrio the EVs to outspeed him as he should have been from the start, got a crit Earthquake on the first try for the one-shot. The next ones were the Pokemon that needed a crit, but took too long for me to get them. Sandshrew took 19 restarts, Cubone took 12, Seadra took 22, Hitmonchan took 7, Raticate took 22, Golem took 46, Marowak took 13, Rhydon took 9, and Vaporeon took 26. Special mention also goes to Gyarados, who while not one that needed a crit, did take 9 restarts to be able to get a run where he got flinched by Rock Slide and didn't set up a Dragon Dance, being then a 3-shot. Lastly, for the Pokemon that I realized were impossible to defeat, they were Dragonite, who while weak to Rock, couldn't get flinched thanks to his ability and wasn't a one-shot with a crit, meanwhile he easily two-shotted me, Weezing, who I tried getting past by using the substitute strategy, but quickly realized that Rock Slide did basically no damage to him, while his flamethrowers easily broke down my substitutes. Aerodactyl, who even after getting a Quick Claw activation, not being KO'd thanks to a range, and then getting another Quick Claw activation, he still wasn't defeated. And Cloyster, who was a very small range to defeat with a crit and a flinch from Rock Slide, and I wasn't going to try and get it. What all of this means is that of the 149 Pokemon that I can fight before the broken legendaries, Dugtrio manages to defeat 142. If you don't want to count crits, then the number goes down to something like 120. Also, the total number of restarts up until this point was 353, 209 more than what I had last time. Now let's go and see how Dugtrio does against the Uber Pokemon. To end the run, it's the final 2 Pokemon, Mewtwo and Mew. I challenged Mew first since he seemed like the easiest, and while Dugtrio was able to take an attack from him, unfortunately, my Earthquakes weren't able to get the 2 shots, being either defeated by a second attack or a single attack after Mew set up a Swords Dance. I tried Hidden Power Ghost since I still had it, but it was doing worse than Earthquake. I had no other choice but to keep trying, hoping to get the crit, and after 33 restarts, it did enough damage to defeat him. I then went for Mewtwo, guessing that something similar was going to happen, but it was even worse, as he outsped and one-shot Dugtrio with Ice Beam. I gave it a couple of tries, hoping that it would be a range, but it wasn't. I even tried with the Quick Claw to see the damage from Dugtrio's Earthquakes against Mewtwo, but it was clearly not enough to defeat him, even with a crit. Meaning that, even after all of the things Dugtrio went through, he's unable to defeat the last Pokemon of the challenge. So, can Dugtrio beat all 151 Pokemon in Fire Red with their competitive moveset? No. It manages to defeat 142 Pokemon plus Mew, but as I said in the intro, his main ability was a trapping ability and strong stat Earthquakes coming from his decent attack stats. And with this video being only 1v1s, the ability is useless and the just decent attack stat is not enough. Dugtrio had to rely heavily on both the Choice Band and crits to get past many Pokemon throughout the video, with his defenses being a hindrance on every matchup. His coverage moves and great speed did help a lot, but once again, they relied on the Choice Band. So overall, I think his performance was pretty similar to his attack stats. Good, but mostly decent. But anyways, did I miss anything on the video? If you think so, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.